Have you ever met a witch doctor? You're about to. This episode is brought to you by the Podcast Services Division at Life's Tough Media. Having your own podcast and using your voice to deliver your message allows you to creatively reach all types of audiences, from clients to prospects to your most loyal membership base. Life's Tough Media makes having a podcast easier than ever before by offering robust, turnkey podcast solutions with superior remote recording capabilities and with studio affiliates located around the world. Contact us today for a no-obligation consultation at info@lifestuff.com or visit us at lifestuff.com to learn more. So what is a breakthrough? It's finding your way out of suffering and stuck. It's that feeling of new energy, renewed life, and excitement. When I was 7 months pregnant with my second baby, I received a life-changing diagnosis. I had cancer. When I told my older daughter, she said, "So you're going to die?" And the only thing that saved my life during that time was knowing how to emotionally break through. Welcome to the Tougher Together Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Rebeccah Silence. I'm a speaker, coach, and the creator of Healing is Possible. In each episode, I prepare you for life no matter what challenges you're facing. I'm going to invite you into the stories of real people who are living life in breakthrough and making the world a better place. If they can do it, so can you. Breakthrough is your right. Get ready to break through. Get ready for the rest of your life. Today, we are bringing in someone very special to me, Dr. Nathan Kennedy, who quite literally helped me walk again when I was told I never could. And not only that, after cancer, chemotherapy, nerve damage, my legs healed. I'm skiing, I'm jumping around my house doing boot camps every day. And I attribute that so much to my work with Dr. Kennedy. So we are honored to have him on the show. Dr. Kennedy, welcome.
Thanks so much. It's good to be here.
It's so exciting to have you. Tell us what breakthrough is, Dr. Kennedy. How do people do it?
So I think it's a loaded question, but in general, I think it's getting enough inertia in the right direction to sustain, positive momentum in that area, and I think for me, it's about a 5-minute answer that I don't know if I can sum down, but it's, I think for me, it's examples. Like for me, I saw a lot of amazing things happen in my life, and that catapulted me into the future of possibility by having examples of seeing people get cured of diseases or get better. It made me think like, well, what else is possible? And I think that's a big part, at least in my arena, is building that belief is a big part of getting you to actually follow through and learn new things. That would be one of the things I would say about it.
What else?
So I would say that you have to have a fairly open mind that things are possible. I think what happens to a lot of people is they think, well, I've tried like 10 things and that didn't work, so it must not be possible, In my journey, I met a lot of people. I had a thing happen to me when I was a kid, and I traveled around the world meeting people, France, Mexico, and people from Canada and doctors. And I actually spent so much of my own money to meet these people that I was actually homeless, living in the woods up in outside of Denver. And I remember thinking one time, am I going to meet this doctor or am I going to get a hotel? And I actually met the doctor instead. And I just kept learning and learning and learning and trying to get new information. And I think it's the resiliency to keep going forward that builds success. And you have to kind of think like, okay, yeah, there's got to be a way. You have to have, I think a big part of it is belief. You have to know like that it's actually possible. I think that's one of the things I see with you is that you invoke courage in people and belief and gets them driving forward. And I think people only look for stuff if they believe it's there, like if someone didn't think there was gold somewhere and you told them there was gold there, if they didn't believe it's there, they'd never go get it. And I think the same thing is true with, at least in my journey, I constantly just had this learning like drive to try to find things. And I think that's where it starts, at least for me, is starting with initiating the belief that there are more things out there than just what we've experienced, you know?
Will you tell us about some of the breakthroughs that you've seen, some of the miracles that you've witnessed and been a part of?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. So I'll just start talking and say, like, you know, when I was I would say I went through a lot of schooling, and I kept thinking that I would learn something in school, that they would teach me something. And I remember one time I was asking, I was going to go for my board exams, and there was a guy in one of the board training seminars that actually ran the boards. And I asked that guy if he could fix my back or something. And he was in charge of the boards across the whole country. And that guy was probably the least effective doctor I ever met in my life, but he was in charge of like everything. And it kind of made me think, like, you know, who do you listen to? What do you do? That kind of stuff. And it kind of made me realize, after I spent a lot of years in school studying and studying, I went to a lot of different stuff. And it was actually when I started meeting people that just were like a little bit different. They were outside the box. I think a lot of people think, you know, they want to know what someone's degrees in, but they don't want to know like how successful they are. They don't want to know how good are you at actually healing someone. Like I see people all the time that say, you know, what's your degree in? And they should really be asking, like, can you help me? And so I started studying very random, strange people and bizarre things. And I found people that were really, really like outrageously successful. And it was weird that maybe you know this, and it's like a lot of people in psychology know this, that a lot of breakthrough inventions come from people outside of their field. And I think that's because, you know, they have a different way of looking at things. And the more I learned other things, like I read books on gardening, I read books about like music, actually, I read books on like physics. And the more I expanded in those areas, I started to get more breakthroughs. And um, I remember a couple people that did things. And one of the first experiences I had, I met this nutritionist doctor in Houston. And there was a lady that had a scar in her heart, and she always wore these high shirts, like turtleneck shirts, because she was embarrassed of the scar. And one of the first things I experienced is within about a few months, the scar disappeared off that lady's chest with nutrition. And it blew my mind. And then I found out that this guy was, you know, if I can say it, it's always a legal thing, but he had a really high success rate in treating people that had cancer. We also saw my wife's mother's dog sitter had a terminal case of leukemia, and I think in about 1 month he was back into remission. And I saw that. And then I've seen a lot of things psychologically. I've had a lot of treatments on myself that were done. I've seen people that hadn't moved their arms in 3 to 5 years, and within 10, 15 minutes they're moving their arm. And I think those breakthroughs in those arenas allow the possibility to exist that there is more. And I think a lot of people are caught up in these ideas that all that exists is like, you know, what I'm currently seeing, what my doctor told me. There are a lot of people in the world that are incredible. There are a lot of people out there doing amazing things. And I think examples of breakthroughs, I have so many, I can't even think of like one to give you, but I think of another lady that, you know, she had a lung condition. She actually was written up in a book, and she had 4 weeks to live, and that was 7 years ago, you know, and she's actually completely fine now. And these cases do exist. They're out there, you know, and I think it's so many like that I've seen. I can't even begin to tell you. But in my life, there's been one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I think it's partially because, you know, you're open to it. But you know, that's the short answer to that. I would say there's so many I just can't even begin to tell you on it. So yeah.
How much of breakthrough is emotional, physical, spiritual? I mean, when you're telling these stories, and I've
Yeah.
experienced it myself in your office, actually, but how much of it has to do with the body and how much of it has to do with just that belief, like you're talking about?
So I you know, I have my own philosophies from things I've seen. One thing I don't want to portray is that I would be the absolute authority in this, but I do think that there's electrical charges in our thoughts, and we know that when neurons fire up, there's electrical activity that occurs in that charge. And, our body, our muscles are controlled by electrical impulses. So we know, like, if someone gets shocked, we know their muscle gets stronger or twitches, that kind of thing. We also know that when people have different thoughts, the electrical rhythms of their brain are different. Something that I also think is that on an emotional level, our thoughts might be one of the initial pieces. One of the reasons I try to get people so moved and emotional when they come in is because I think that's where it initiates from. I think there's something in physics called somatics. I wish I had some pictures up, but it's when sound forms shapes in sand, and you have Chladni plates and stuff. And that shape is actually a frequency. And I hold the belief that the reason liver cells are the shape they are, the reason pancreas cells are the shape they are, is because of the frequency that the body's generating around that area. And so I think that when we make thoughts and beliefs, they actually form frequencies around our cells. And I think that's provable in physics. I think we can prove that, is that our beliefs and our ideas change the vibration of our cells. And if a cell loses its vibrational rate, it goes into disease. And so the breakthrough has to start, I think, with the initial thing. I think you can push someone where basically they get healthy enough where they wake up. But I do think a lot of healing starts with belief. I really do think it starts with emotions. And I think the electricity of the brain changes those vibrations based on what you're thinking about. And I do think in the next 50, 100 years, we're going to prove that. But I think, if I can say this, there's things like Tumo meditation. I study Wim Hof a little bit, and they show that if you think a certain way, you could change your body temperature, you could change the way your thyroid works. And so it has to have some level of effect based on your beliefs. So I actually think it's a lot of emotions first, but I do think people can be pushed to heal. But to sustain the healing, I do think it's a big part of emotional functioning, in my opinion. Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's in real physical pain and just isn't believing that their body would have the capacity to have a breakthrough like one that you're talking about?
So I would say they need to get out there and they need to meet people. They need to lose the beliefs that only a certain type of person can heal me. They need to drop the ideas that if someone hasn't been able to help them, doesn't mean there's anyone out there that can help them. A lot of people I've seen that have been in those states. When I started, it's a funny story. I used to be in a place called Cherry Creek, and I had a little. It was there was a Steve Martin movie about this where the guy pointed at things on the shelf and said, "You can pick anything in this area." And I used to tell people, I said, "You get anything on the shelf for free if you don't get healed," And I had to beg them to come in and get treated because there was so much belief that they couldn't heal. And I still remember to this day that this lady just wouldn't let me treat her. And it's okay. I think people have a decision, but there's so much energy going that people think, well, I've gone this medical route or this way, and they haven't been able to help me, so it must not be possible. I think getting new information and getting out there, and I'll be honest, I probably saw 5 to 10% of the people that I met were truly incredible. But if I thought to myself, if I saw 5 people out of 100, I got 5%, I got 5 people here, and I got some data I can go at. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you have to constantly push and try things and be open-minded. And when you start to see that change is possible, that's when they start to wake up and they break through and they find out, oh, this is possible. But they gotta, I think with me in my arena, I've had to show them it's possible. And then they start waking up, and then they catapults other areas of their life, like relationships and other things too. So yeah, I think getting examples, watching videos, I sent people on like YouTube or something. I said, just watch a few people that had miracles, go talk to people that had miracles, and start to get in that energy so that they start to think, well, maybe it's true. And then it opens up the idea to try it. So that's what I would say about it.
What is a miracle?
There was a good guy that I studied for a while. I never met him, but his name was Dr. Carrick, and he was one of the most amazing neurologists. And I indirectly studied this guy. Actually, never had the money to go to his seminars, but I studied every piece of work I could find. And he was on 60 Minutes once for curing all these people. And he said a miracle is something that, if I remember his words right, he said a miracle is something that only happens once in a while. He said when something starts to happen consistently, time and time again, it's just something that works. So I think there's a shift in physiology here where in our mind, almost when we think of miracles, we think of something that's very rare and unusual. When we put gas in a car and push the gas pedal and it runs every time, it's actually a miracle, but because we're so used to it, it is now normal. So to me, my goal would be to say that miracles are something that I think everybody should start to become aware of, with the possibility of becoming something that's normal and consistently works. That's how I would place it.
I love that answer. And I don't know how many
Yeah.
times you've said to me, oh, the worst thing that could happen is you just get happier, you just get healthier, you just
Yeah.
get more healed. And
Yeah.
I love that. Tell our listeners, either a story or something that helps them understand what I'm talking about when I say that.
So, in my opinion, one of the great people I met, his name was Dr. Bandler, and a lot of people know him, and he was the guy that started NLP. But when I met him in person, he was really ahead of everybody else I ever took seminars from. It was quite amazing. And he told me something, and one of the reasons I say that stuff is he said, language is something that happens unconsciously. You're not looking up every word that I say. You're not looking in a dictionary to say, what does say mean? What does this mean? And since language is occurring unconsciously in each person, it's actually a form of hypnosis. And so basically, the reason I say things is I think that, in my opinion, that what we talk about unconsciously, since it's happening on an unconscious level, is actually affecting us almost hypnotically. So I think the words we say to some degree actually start to program us. And I think that's evident by just by what someone talks about, you'll notice you start to feel that way. And I think it's some of the programming, but also the reason I say that stuff also with you is like when someone lifts their leg and they couldn't lift it again, they're in a state of possibility. And in that state of possibility, since language, in my opinion, is an unconscious process, I want to feed suggestions that are open to the state of mind of possibility when positive change is happening drastically. So, like if someone's like, I can walk now, you want to be like, well, maybe you're just going to get happy. And they're like, they always go, what? And it's like, well, I'm trying to slide a few things in there at the same time since that channel is starting to open, you know? And I think, in my opinion, you want to hit someone with everything you got to get them better. Like basically, you don't just want to be like, well, I know these couple things to help you back. It's like, if I can tell you something, if I can feed you something, if I can play some goofy music in the background, like, I don't care what it is. Like, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at this person and try to get them better, So I think that's, I look for in people pupillary dilation sometimes when they're in a state of like, oh, I'm getting better. And when that state opens, I try to throw words at it to associate into that thing to try to get them to be like, boom, 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 and it was like almost like you got a cannon of healing and you just blown it at them at the right opportunity, So that's a short answer on that, I would say.
I love
Yeah.
it. What
Yeah.
else do you want people to know about breakthrough and the power of their capacity to create breakthrough for themselves?
Yeah. So I think again, it's like you got to get examples. A lot of people, from what I've studied of neurology and the brain, I think a lot of humanity likes to do things like other people because it's like a herd mentality, like a deer is safer in a group than it would be by itself. So we have to kind of break out of the idea that, I'm just going to do what everybody else does because I'm safe. And I think on an unconscious level, and I'm not an expert on this, you might know more than I know about it, but it almost seems like people sometimes are not willing to play outside of the box a little bit, like they want to keep it safe. And, they're like, I don't want to meet this person. I don't want to talk to that person. I want to do this. But like, the thing that I consistently do is I read a study, like the one I'm on right now is Tumo meditation from a Harvard study where people raised their body temperature by 17 degrees. And I think the guy's name was Herbert Benson from Harvard that did the study. And the reason I think that's important, I show that to people, is because you actually can do that. And so like once you like raise your body temperature, I was outside, we had a snowstorm today, and I was outside for about 30 minutes in a t-shirt, and I think it was 15 degrees out. And I was laughing to myself thinking like, how come I didn't learn this in school? Like this is the coolest thing ever. And when we get those examples, like, people told me this wasn't possible and it is. And then you go, well, what else is possible that people told me it isn't? Because I think we have a set of examples that makes us think we know what reality is. And we have a set of programs that a lot of us run that think, this is what reality is, this is what's possible. And I would just say I want people to know you really have to get out there and try things and stick with them and try to experience stuff. The thing I sent you an email earlier was the story I heard about Henry Ford, was that he was trying to build a V8 motor and everybody told him, you can't do that. There's no way you can do it. And the thing was, how I heard it was, he went out and fired everybody that didn't think you could do it. And he hired everybody, even people that didn't even know what a motor was. He's like, you're hired, and what he knew was, I think, more about creativity than the rest of the world, is he knew that the thing that was preventing people from learning how to build a V8 motor was they already decided that they couldn't do it. And a lot of people have already decided that they can't do this or they can't do that. And that I think it was very, very quickly, as soon as he changed all the people around and he just told them, just do it, they ended up doing it. And like, what I would love to see, like, just to help people also on a breakthrough, like if I had a research and development company, I would hire all the people that believed you could go faster than the speed of light. I would hire all the people that didn't believe in any of the laws of physics. I would throw them all out the window, and I would see within a few months how many amazing events we would start to discover. And it's really, that is an obvious thing in physics that I always read about, is that as soon as a new invention comes out or a breakthrough study, then everybody starts inventing something new. And it's like, why would you wait for somebody to decide and tell you that this law in physics wasn't true? Like, for example, the law of thermodynamics, that you can't create energy, that's starting to be dismantled. They're starting to show that you actually can create energy. And so now all these amazing inventions are going to start coming out. And I think the reason they're starting to come out is because people are like, well, okay, that wasn't true, so now I can do this. And it's like, you could have done it the whole time. Like, just your beliefs and ideas prevented you from trying something new because someone taught you in school that there's a law of thermodynamics. And when I was in school, I remember taking a test, and it said the earth is the only place that there's water on. And you had to mark it true, or you got a wrong mark on it, And I was thinking in my head at the time, I said, how the heck do they know that there's like no water way out in the universe? We don't even have machines to get out there. And the truth is, you don't know what's possible because there's no way to prove that it isn't possible. And that's the case. Like, the law of thermodynamics is based on what we currently know. And as more and more stuff comes out, we find out, oh, we're not true. Medicine, physics, I would say probably even, I don't study a lot of psychology, but you might see this too, that we have a very bad track record of telling people what's possible. And it's almost never the case. Like, every 100 years, we find out almost everything we told people wasn't true. So I would say, why would you ever wait to change your life? Why would you make someone think that, you can't become motivated, you can't become successful, you can't get a breakthrough because somebody in school, or if I could say, it's like, I remember the psychology teacher had an undergrad, she was very limited in her beliefs. And basically I thought, that's not that good to teach people. So people are taught this stuff. They say, well, I learned it in school that I'm just the way I am because of my parents. And it's like, what a disservice that someone did to teach that. And it's not that a lot of people believe what they're told. And I guess the last thing I would say is that in our world, how we're raised to learn by what people tell us. So like when we go to school, if we learn how to build like a car, or we learn how to make dresses or something, A lot of times our education is based on what people tell us. It's not based on experiences. And so basically, like if I was to tell you how to raise a horse and you raised a horse, you'd be way better at raising a horse because you actually did it. But if I taught you how to raise a horse by studying a book and you never even met a horse in your life, you wouldn't be as good. So what I think this does is a lot of us are in this trance of my beliefs are based on what people tell me rather than experiences. And so basically, when we start to become more experimental based, like, well, is this true? Is it not true? Like, can I change? Cannot change? It shifts us. And I think a lot of us have been taught that through educational systems and stuff, because it's just, you can't teach 5,000 kids by experience. It's just not possible. I mean, that's just the world I guess we live in. I mean, maybe you could, but it's be hard to do. So I'm not blaming the educational system, but I think one of the shifts that has to occur is we have to really look at things like, does someone able to heal me or not? Is this person helping me or not? And not just because I was told that this will help me and it doesn't help me, do I keep doing it? You should think experimentally, like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to do something else. And I'm going to keep looking for the success until I find it, because I'm not just going to believe what someone tells me. I'm going to do based on experience. So that's my short answer on that.
I love that. Think
Yeah.
experimentally. I
Yeah.
want to hear your perspective on the power of breakdown now that you've been so
Yeah.
beautifully supportive of the breakthrough.
Yeah. So breakdown, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the
So
power of a breakdown? What's the purpose of a breakdown? Is
so do
there
you
one?
mean like emotionally, or what would
Or
that?
like that moment of, I see it as like a fork in the road that we all end up at. One path is
Oh,
defeatedness. One path
oh,
is I'm committing to the other side. Is there power in the moments of suffering or in the moments of breakdown? Or what would you say a breakdown is?
yeah. I mean, so yeah, I think how I think, I think a lot in neurology and electrical functioning and frequencies and stuff. So I think a breakdown is an overstimulation of electrical activity. So that over electrical activity can break circuits. So basically, how I view the world is sometimes if you get more electricity in a circuit, it busts it, like it breaks the thing because it can't handle the current. And so there's an opportunity there that when a circuit gets dismantled, you can put it back together in ways that, you might not have been able to see before. But also, I think people reach certain points where they have to decide, like, am I going to change or am I going to shift? Am I going to do something? And there's a real nice guy that I used to know that was a biochemist in Austin. And he said, if people aren't willing to change, they're not sick enough yet. And I think, in my opinion, I think breakdowns aren't necessary, but they do provide an opportunity. I think if we were all very, very strong, we could shift things before that potential. But I do think breakdowns also allow for uh, an opportunity to start to be open to more ideas. Like, if we're laying on the road and you haven't had a drink of water in 5 days, you might take that water from anybody. You're like, I'll drink out of the dirty puddle. I just want to survive, And so basically, we start to just have to shift, I think, in that state. So I think that it can provide an opportunity of just like, I got to move, I got to do something. And I would hope that most people would have ideas ahead of time as to what to do. Like, I think some people they don't know what to do, like if they had a breakdown. But I think giving possibilities to people ahead of time and telling stories about things, I think also is an important part of that. Like, people, break down, they're like, what do I do now? But if they were around someone that had the same thing happen and they said, well, this happened to me, and all of a sudden I realized, like, hey, I can do this, I can do that. I think that helps. So I think that's a hard question for me to answer, but I think it forces change, I would say, for sure. And I studied, if I can say this, I studied hypnosis. I actually studied brainwashing and stuff like that. And the reason that from what I understand, brainwashing programs people is because it induced suffering. And so basically hypnosis uses relaxation because it allows a choice of the suggestion from what I've seen. So if you've seen like cults and stuff, they'll make people dress a certain way, they'll starve them, they'll give them nothing to eat, they'll make them do certain things that are different. And I think the purpose of that is when the body goes into a breakdown, it starts to become hyper suggestible, almost to a dangerous level. And I think it's important that if there is a breakdown, that the right type of help is there, because I think that's when people start to change their personalities. I think we know from people that had trauma that those are some of the life-changing events that occur in people. And so the breakdown process, I think, is something that I would hope humanity starts to catch before it happens. But if it's already happened, there's programming, I think, that occurs there that should be heavily shifted and provides an interesting opportunity, if I can say that. Yeah.
I absolutely love your answer. And I think we don't need to hit some trauma crisis or bottom to step into the tougher, stronger, more resilient parts of ourselves. And
Yeah.
Dr. Kennedy, I'd love it if you would give our listeners homework. What homework would you invite us all to do?
Yeah. So I would say the homework would be, to spend some time with people that are incredible. I would encourage people to read books that they've never read about before. So like the most intelligent people I ever met in my life, they didn't study one thing. Like one of the physicists I met, he was always trying to go to the library and find a book that he's never read in his entire life. And he said, after 20 years, this is getting hard to do. And I said, why are you doing that? He said, because I have to constantly expand how my neurons work. And I think that we also have to find, try to open up to possibilities and to think way outside the box. I think the way that humanity is going to progress, we always use the example of a jet plane, a cell phone. Someone had to have the wild idea to try that, And I think the more people that start to get outside the box and thinking, and we need to know that it's safe, it's good. I think the more potential the world is going to have. I did some research in Florida, senior research project at the university. It was actually on plants, but I worked with a genetics teacher there, and it was funny. Like I remember the guys that were doing the genetics research, they actually all drove the same car, and they actually dressed the same way, they acted the same, they hung out. They actually they were so shockingly similar. It was unbelievable. And I kept thinking to myself, how are these people going to find new ideas? And I think that's the thing that also exists in our brain, is that the systems in our body are kind of working the same way. They're thinking the same thing. They're working on the same arena, and no one's getting any new ideas in there. So by maybe traveling somewhere new or meeting the new people and reading a book you've never thought about and meeting people that have cured cancer, and unbiasedly listening to them and dreaming beyond wild imagination. Because the truth is, we have a horrible track record of telling people what's true. We almost find out it's not true. So we need to dream wildly and actually try the craziest, wildest stuff with morality, I would say. The example I would leave you with as a scientist would be, I always hear people say, I ask them sometimes for fun. I was doing this thing. I said, can you do telekinesis? And I said, I don't know if you can do telekinesis, but I would ask people. And almost everybody would say no. And then I would ask them, I would say, how long have you tried to do it? And most people said, I never tried, and it's kind of like that in our brain, is that we don't know if it's possible. I wouldn't say I would rather listen to an answer from someone about that actually did it for 3 hours a day for 5 years and find out if they did it, rather than have someone decide in their brain, that they did it for never, 2 seconds of their life, and they already decided if it's true or not, So we have to dream a little bit. We have to try. We have to push reality, and we have to really see what's possible out there. And that's the thoughts I would leave them with. Is the homework is to dream a little bit, to encourage people to be as creative as they can with morality, and just know that, like, people don't learn how to play a piano in 2 minutes. So if you try something and you're not good at it, then that doesn't mean you're not going to be able to do it. It's funny, like, we all believe we can play a piano because someone gave us that example. But if someone, it would be unbelievable if we had a million pianos in the world and everybody decided they must not be able to play music because they tried it for 2 minutes, and they said, well, it's not possible. I think if people stick to things, I think as the world goes on in the next 100, 200 years, we're going to find out that there's way more things that are possible that we ever dreamed, and I would just encourage people to dream about that, to work with that. And if you're trying something, just to, wild as it might be, just stick with it for a while and see. You never know what you're going to discover, so that would be the homework I would give.
So good. It brings tears to my eyes hearing you share that. And you, quite honestly, are a dream come true in my life. I feel like I dreamed of the type of support and holistic support that you've provided me. I can't thank you enough. How do people find you?
Oh, so we're in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. We have a website. It's kennedywellnesslabs.com. I have a nutritional website. It's kennedywellnessupplements.com. Our phone number in the office is 303-322-5015. So, we're there. My name's, Nathan Kennedy. I'm sure that'll be on there. But I'd say that's a good start, people can find me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kennedy. This is Rebeccah Silence with the Tougher Together Breakthrough podcast. No matter the circumstance, you're tougher, you're stronger, and possibilities and miracles are waiting for you to find them. Please note that the content of this podcast is not meant to be therapeutic or to replace any personal growth work that you are already doing with a coach, therapist, or mentor. Take the content, have it inspire you, and then keep working with your support system. Breakthrough is your right. Breakthrough reminds us that we're tougher together and that we're connected to possibility even in the most challenging and possibly darkest times. I'm Rebeccah Silence, creator of Healing is Possible and proud host of the Tougher Together Breakthrough podcast, where we come together and we tell stories of real breakthrough that exist for you as well. Get ready to break through. Get ready to live more free and get ready to experience more breakthrough, because that's your right. Join us on the Life's Tough Media website and stay tuned for more. If you want to get in touch with me, visit RebeccahSilence.com. Your time is now. Your breakthrough begins now.